We are back here on the Believe in St. Louis Cardinals podcast. And there's a lot for us to catch up on as we get into more of a regular content schedule. Brendan Donovan traded. The Cardinals now have the number 2 farm system in all of baseball, according to Fangraphs. And I believe Baseball America, the Cardinals have 6 prospects now in the top 100. And spring training has kicked off. We'll talk a little bit about that. All of that and much, much more on this episode of the Believe in St. Louis Cardinals podcast, coming at you right now. This is the Believe in St. Louis Cardinals podcast. There's also a video version on the Long Live Baseball YouTube channel. I'm deeming this video series Long Live STL Cardinals. So go check that out. Click the like button, subscribe over there. Go download the podcast. Brendan Donovan traded. Now, we did literally the last episode that we did. We talked about the cases for keeping Brendan Donovan, the cases for, or rather the case for trading him away. And it turned out the Cardinals, they found the right offer and they decided to trade Brendan Donovan, which is what we settled on. We thought, or at least I thought, that the best option for the St. Louis Cardinals is to continue down the path that you're going down. You realize that Brendan Donovan is likely not going to be on the next great St. Louis Cardinals team. So what do? You're not going to pay him. You might as well trade him. But they weren't just going to trade him for just any bag of balls, right? They weren't just going to give him away. And they did get quite a bit in return. They got Hurangelo Sente, the number 91 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Ty Pete, who was the Mariners' number 11 overall prospect, and he now fits into the Cardinals system at number 15. Colton Ledbetter was the Rays' number 24 overall prospect. And something that people really don't understand how big of a deal this is, at least to me, the competitive B draft picks, number 68 and number 72 overall, one from the Mariners, one from the Rays. So you get a total of 5 prospects for Brendan Donovan. You might not have gotten one of the elite prospects in all of baseball, but you did exactly what you needed to do. You're attacking this with volume, hoping that you can hit on one or two of these guys. And Gente or Sente, or however you say that he looks like he can be a difference-making pitcher, whether that be out of the bullpen or starter. I think he projects more as a starter, but this is exactly what you had to do. You had to attack this offseason with getting as many prospects as you can. You understand that this is not going to be your year, but I happen to think that and we'll get to this a little bit later, I happen to think that the St. Louis Cardinals could be a little bit better than people expect, because all the talk around the St. Louis Cardinals, at least from a national media perspective, is, oh, obviously they suck. They're terrible. Move on. Nothing more to see here. But when you look at the Cardinals roster and potentially the prospects that could hit the big leagues this year, I don't know, man. I'm not saying that they're going to win 90 games. I'm not saying that, but I don't think they're going to lose 100 either. I think they're going to be competitive, and I think the environment is ripe for the players who are the players of the future to kind of cement themselves and prove that they belong at the major league level. And it's exciting. It really is. It's exciting to me. I somebody who's been championing this path that hasn't been traveled down because John Mozeliak basically refused to travel down it. Kyle Bloom basically takes over and goes, yep, we're going down this path, and this is what we're doing. And now we have the number 2 farm system in all of baseball. So I think the Brendan Donovan trade, a lot of people looked at it as yet another move that furthers the Cardinals away from winning. And that's true. They're not going to win in 2026, but I think that they could win in 2027. And that's because of their prospects. We talked about it. Number 2 overall farm system, according to Fangraphs, 6 in the top 100, according to MLB.com. Some of the prospects, obviously the names at the top, J.J. Weatherholt, Liam Doyle. Rainiel Rodriguez, keep your eye on him, a 19-year-old catcher, highest level A ball, A-plus ball. The Cardinals also are going to have to figure out what to do with their catching prospects because they have 3 of them in their top 10 prospects according to Fangraphs. That would be Jimmy Crooks, Rainiel Rodriguez, and Leonardo Bernal. Jimmy Crooks, the oldest of those players at 24 and a half years old. Maybe he's the guy that you look at moving. Urangelo Gente, that, as we talked about, he is in that mix. He's the 5th overall prospect. Brandon Clark, and this is according to Fangraphs, so that this isn't, maybe popular opinion, but Brandon Clark, another live arm there. I believe he might have gotten hurt. I'll have to double check that. I might even do that right now. Joshua Baez is another very interesting prospect that's, bounced back. Yaro Padilla, honestly, haven't heard or seen much of him, but he's in rookie ball, according to Fangraphs. And we talked about Leonardo Bernal and Quinn Matthews. Quinn Matthews is another prospect, a little bit older, 25 years old, but could maybe potentially crack the big league roster this year, and Tink Hence. And then we go to Koa Roby, Ryan Mitchell, Tai Pete, Chen Wei Lin, Ivan Henderson, and Jesus Baez is in there too. Cooper Herpes, Sim Robersey, Nathan Church, Tanner Franklin, Blaze Jordan, on down the list. I mean, there's 53 guys that Fangraphs decided to rank here. And, obviously JJ Weatherholt, Liam Doyle, those are the guys that are taken in the first round that you're counting on making a difference, but definitely attacking this. And that doesn't even include the draft picks that the Cardinals are going to have in this year's draft, those 2 competitive B balance draft picks. I think the future is bright. And then when you look, so you have all those prospects, right? And I think also the Brendan Donovan trade all but cements JJ Weatherholt's going to start the year at the big leagues. That's not official yet, but I mean, it's pretty exciting to me to get to see him. When you're talking about a guy like, JJ Weatherholt, and Nolan Gorman right now projects to be the 3rd baseman according to Fangraphs, with Mason Wynn at short, JJ Weatherholt at 2nd, Alec Burleson at 1st. And then you have the catching situation, which we mentioned with Pages, Pozo, Crooks, Herrera. Herrera's probably going to be the DH. And then you have Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, Lars Nootbaar, likely going to be the starting outfield, with Nathan Church, maybe Alec Burleson thrown out there as well. Thomas Ajayce's probably going to mix in. And Jose Fermin's having a nice spring to start out. And then, you throw in guys. Urias is a guy that they signed. We talked about Nathan Church, but you talk about all those players, and we talked about with these prospects that could come up, the Cardinals, they could be a little bit better than people might think. The starting pitching rotation: Matthew Liberatore Palante, Dustin May, Michael McGreevy, Richard Fitz, Kyle Leahy. Maybe he might be in the bullpen. I'm not 100% sure, but now they're talking about him as a starting pitcher. Quinn Matthews, Hunter Dobbins, on down the list. So from a depth perspective, the Cardinals starting pitching, I would argue, is better than it was last year. A lot more upside. Again, the ground is right for somebody to take charge at the starting pitching position. The bullpen, you still have JJ Romero in the bullpen. Gordon Graceffin. They signed Stanek, Ryan Stanek, a veteran who hasn't really been good. But you have some Ryan Fernandez is in there, Riley O'Brien. You have some guys that, maybe you can piece together a bullpen. And really, the bullpen wasn't really the issue. I know they traded away, I am spacing on his name, but you know who it is. They traded away Ryan Helsley. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I couldn't think of that senior moment there. But the point is, coming back to the prospects, you have this kind of foundation, right? I think Mason Wynn's going to be a good shortstop for a while. JJ Weatherholt, if he's good, you have him. Alec Burleson. Who knows what's going to happen with Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman? Who knows? At catcher, you have a lot of guys that could be the next guy, and Rainiel Rodriguez is waiting in the wings. What are we going to get from Lars Nootbaar? Ivan Herrera, is he going to be a guy that sticks around? And maybe he can be potentially a future first baseman. Maybe he's just the DH. Maybe he can catch. What are we going to get out of guys like Dustin May? How's Matthew Liberatore going to pitch in his second full season in the big leagues, right? And then Michael McGreevy, Andre Palante, Richard Fitz, Kyle Leahy. Who's going to win these jobs? What are we going to get from Quinn Matthews? It's a season for the St. Louis Cardinals like we've never really seen before, where I think that there should be some optimism with these younger players and this direction. But we've been so used to veterans playing and having the outlook that we're going to be headed to the playoffs and we're in contention for a World Series. That's not going to happen this year. But I do think that there should be some excitement surrounding this team, because this is the year that the Cardinals are taking to figure out who their guys are. And you certainly hope that if Weatherholt and Mason Wynn can be up the middle and provide you that, because you want to build your baseball team up the middle. If you hit on one of these catchers and you have those two guys, and maybe Victor Scott proves that he can be at least a speedy good defensive center fielder, that's not a bad up the middle, for the future of your team. And then you just have to build around Weatherholt and Mason Wynn and figure out, like, is Alec Burleson going to be a long-term piece here, etc. Me personally, and I know I'm a different kind of Cardinals fan than most, I'm kind of excited about this. You have all of that at the major league level right now, at least projected to be, and that's according to Fangraphs. Plus, you have the prospects that should come up, maybe not this year, but next year and the year after, that are going to be the lifeblood of this team going forward. And you have all of those draft picks as well that you've acquired that you're going to use this year to further that even more. So there's a really good chance that the Cardinals have the number one overall farm system heading into 2027. I know they're probably going to lose JJ Weatherholt, but still, if you add 5 guys, or you added 5 guys in the Brendan Donovan trade, plus you have another draft class coming in with 2 competitive B balanced draft picks in addition to that, I think that there's a really good chance that they have, if not the top farm system, top 5, I would think top 10 for sure. And speaking of spring training has started, and maybe there's no better time than spring training. And I just wanted to touch on some of the guys at spring training that are playing pretty well, at least statistically. Jose Fermin batting .429, 3 hits and 7 at bats. And again, these stats don't really mean a ton. I mean, very limited sample size here. Jeremy Rivas batting .500, 3 for 6 with a run scored. Thomas Sajaci, 286. Chase Davis, nice to see him hitting .400, 2 for 5 with a run scored, 2 RBIs. And let's see, some of the Nolan Gorman, 286. Guy named Jonathan Gazdar's hitting 1,000, so good for him. Cade McGee, 500. It's so, to me, Colton Ledbetter, who the Cardinals acquired, who's a center fielder, 2 for 4. You just really never know which one of these guys, because it feels like every year in spring training, the Cardinals have a guy that steps up that you weren't expecting to step up and earns a spot on the team. So it's going to be one of those years where it's like it's kind of wide open. You're not really sure who that's going to be. You think that Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker are going to have roles, but if they don't, if they aren't good, there's guys waiting in the wings that could potentially take their spots, and maybe some guys that we might not have heard much about. Matthew Liberatore is really the only guy that's thrown more than 2 innings. He's pitched 5 innings, given up 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, so that's good to see. 7 strikeouts in 5 innings pitched, 4 hits given up. So that's kind of an update on the spring training. Urangelo Gente pitched well from what I saw in his 2 innings. So 2 strikeouts in those 2 innings. And, you know, I think that this pitching staff that the Cardinals have put together, you know, with guys like Liberatore, Michael McGreevy, Kyle Leahy, Dustin May, Richard Fitz, etc., go on down the line. You know, maybe Quinn Matthews is there as well. I think it's a lot deeper than it was last year. So we're going to see what the Cardinals can put out there. And to me, I think, just to kind of recap this update, I really think that this is the right path for the Cardinals to have gone down. Adding all these prospects, getting rid of these veterans that you weren't winning with anyway, the excitement that comes with a guy like J.J. Weatherholt, the progression of Liam Doyle through the system, who can potentially be a really good starting pitcher for you. And we're going to find out a lot of answers to questions this year, which is what I was begging John Mozeliak to do for those years after, you know, basically after Albert left. You know, the year after that, we were, you know, I was hopeful that the Cardinals could put together a good season. They did not. And then they hung on another year and another year. And it wasn't the right decision. And finally, you know, if the Cardinals would have traded some of these guys sooner, they probably would have gotten more for them. But here we are sitting with the number 2 farm system in all of baseball. So you know, it's quite the turnaround. It really is. And we're going to see how good this team can be in 2026. And I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to be a lot better than people think. But you let me know in the comments on the YouTube, on the podcast feed. Go give us a subscribe there on the podcast feed, 5-star review. Let me know what you think. Go over to the YouTube channel, Long Live Baseball. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel for more videos. We're going to have more content, St. Louis Cardinals based content coming at you. And until next time, be good, everybody. And that's going to do it for the Believe in St. Louis Cardinals podcast.